Yeah, that's right. You've caught us chewing our snacks.
Snacks. Snack time.
Snack time. Snack time with Cam and Maddie. Today's snack time.
I didn't know Maddie's snack game was like unlocked, but
Oh yeah, I just got back from Costco. I'm moving up in the world.
yeah, Costco abundance right now, straight up.
I feel like I've worked up a tier in the class system. It's like my foot is kind of like in there now, and I'm just like, ugh. Every time I go to Costco, I feel that way. Well,
That you can like roll up, buy like a week's, 2 weeks worth of groceries, come home,
get the heck out of there.
get out of there.
I never see a grocery store again for 3 or 4 weeks.
Is it still? Yeah, I haven't been to Costco in a long time, but
It's heaven.
It still has those like big things of mayonnaise everywhere.
Yes, it is capitalist heaven. Middle class capitalist heaven.
Something feels good. Something's very comforting about being a part of that, even though it's very disturbing in some ways. It's like also like, oh, like I grew up in this a little bit.
It's familiar. It's like I was coming home finally.
Yeah.
Took 38 years. Anyways, that's not why we're here today.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we're here for other stuff. Although I would say it's putting food in our body. You know, we are here to talk about bodies. In particular, we're talking about men's bodies, but it's not entirely exclusive to that. But my interest is in kind of men's bodies, masculinity, and how that. Wow, there's a spider crawling on the phone right now. It's super cool. Oh, I hope he goes across the. He's climbing down.
Wow.
Right now. All
Yeah.
right. That's amazing. Anyways, that's what I do. I do work with men, kind of one-on-one, doing some guidance counseling and coaching, and looking at how masculinity kind of shapes their internal world, their relationship to their bodies, to their minds, to the way they construct themselves in the world around them. And then I do men's groups where we challenge all of those things and we look at all of those things, and then we work together to build each other up. Yeah, and that's pretty much what I do. And Cam can tell them what you do a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm. I guess I'm a trainer, even though that word is starting to fizzle underneath me a little bit. But trainer, body worker, coach, which is another word that I have my own issues around. But help folks have a better relationship with gravity. Help folks create a better relationship with their body that is very respectful of the body's process. So, you know, I'm not a 6 weeks and get shredded type trainer. Getting into a place where you're feeling holistically well is a process that takes quite a bit of time and energy and persistence, since we have been kind of continuously enforced to not be well in many ways. So I help folks rearrange their bodies physically with my hands on them, and I also help guide people through how to move more holistically and more efficiently through their body. And at the same time, we're working through every part of the mind that has been conditioned to move in the way that has led this person, whatever person that is, to the place they are now. So it's not as simple as just do these exercises and move this way and you'll be fine. It's like, oh, well, actually I've been sitting in this position for 15 years and I don't even know I have an arm that can go up over my head. So, you know, it can start pretty small, and those revelations are they compound after time, because it's just like we don't even realize what we have until someone presents to us that we have something. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. It's, you know, we basically do the opposite, but both of our work, it collides, and so Cam and I have come together to talk about the collision of our work, like the internal and the external coming together, and then like what does it look like when we throw masculinity into the mix? You know, when we throw in being socialized as men into the mix, how does that impact the way in which we relate to our bodies? And what I'm interested is is to know how that actually, like how does, you know, like somatic work, body work, you know, body mind work, how does the body work translate into kind of more internal work for people as well, right? Like what does that have to do with people's personal development and growth, right? Like how does the that body relationship, like what does that look like for you? What's been your experience working with men?
Wow, so many good questions in that statement. I'm gonna try to like pick out the
Yeah.
one that feels most cohesive, but I think the main thing that I'll try to address really quickly, and or just like to touch on the last piece that you said. The main piece with the mental is that people don't know that they're in pain. People don't know that their body is disorganized. People don't feel it. That discovering of how disorganized their body is and how inefficiently they're working is a big deal. It's a big deal, and it can really take a blow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people stop moving towards changing themselves because the old program will come in while you're trying to change it, and they'll go, no, it was working before, even though it wasn't working well, it was working. And so there's resistance in that person's like deepest part of their programming, and it's like saying like, don't let go. We're barely holding on here. If you try to change this is going to be a big deal. So especially when
So your body kind of revolts on you?
Oh yeah.
Your mind kind of revolts?
100%.
Oh, interesting.
Constantly. And it's fascinating too, because there's this dialogue between people, especially when I'm doing hands-on stuff, where you know you have to be really careful not to do too much. You have to slowly wean the person into the new experience that they need to have. You know, people want to just have like pain, you know, if they're coming with a shoulder pain or something, they want to have pain-free right away. But it's a process, and you need to almost start at the least affected areas first to ease the body into the idea, okay, we can change. There's an idea of change. Oh, this is safe. Oh, there's a way out. Oh, there's this. And so, yeah.
So you slowly ease them in and allow like a sense of safety to be built up, because I call that like not having a reference point when they don't know what it's like to be living outside of the patterns that they exist in currently, right? Like the kind of like memory of how to move is like implanted in our body, and then it's like, and then you're like, hey, I want you to move this way, and they're like, what? Yeah, interesting. That's yeah. So that's like that. There's like a shift that has to take place from. Or at least this is what I think I'm hearing you say. There's a shift that kind of has to take place between the kind of like old self and the new self, and that there's this kind of struggle as you introduce new ways of moving that are different than what our body remembers and is used to.
100%.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So what's it like doing hands-on work with men then? Because I imagine like probably not a lot of guys are necessarily doing that.
Yeah, well, I've been lucky. I've like, the men I have worked on have been like, I attract men who are comfortable enough in that environment. So I feel pretty lucky in that. The men I have worked on, it's been very emotional, you know?
Really?
Yeah, because the men I've worked on work hard, right? They're consistently working hard. Their muscles are just like, there's certain parts of their body that every single day they're lifting that same object or holding that like, you know, lawnmower or whatever it is. I've worked on a lot of people who work in landscaping, which is kind of hilarious to me.
It's everywhere here.
Yeah.
They grow like flowers out here.
Yeah, it's true. Even I'm an ex landscaper, if you want to say that.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's something. Yeah, I guess it's part of the culture here. But yeah, I think, you know, there are certain culturally sensitive areas. You know, like in terms of around your genitals and especially around your neck. Like everybody holds tension around their neck, but to have somebody working on your neck is very vulnerable. But these are places, neck and hips, culturally, not only are they sensitive, but they're so compacted and strained that they need the most attention, some of the most attention.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about touch, because we know that it's like a pretty significant difference between how much physical, non-sexual physical touch that men and women get. Men get far less. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the statistic right now, but it's quite a lot. So you think about that. That there were even just doing touch work with men is actually breaking down barriers around gender, but is also like giving them something that is really nutritious, that actually helps to regulate the nervous system as well, right? So, but I imagine some people probably struggle with it. I personally found it to be really, important part. So, yeah, like healthy movement, healthy touch. In Tai Chi we do push hands. We're when we're moving together, our nervous systems are like kind of hanging out and they're starting to blend. We get more of that. And the more we do that, the more that like creates safety in our body.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it's similar.
Yeah, I would say, like, especially with people who I've worked with long term, like over the course of, say, a couple of months, there's this dance that happens where the first couple times, like, I'm not going to pretend like what I do is easy for anybody. The type of fascial stretching I do is intense for everyone in the nature of what it is. But with the men I've worked on, they the main thing actually I run into is they want it harder.
Oh.
They want it more. They want to accomplish something, and I'm like, it's not going to happen. Like, it's literally not going to happen that way. You need to let go, and you need to be honoring the pain and sensations that you're feeling and set your limits. And so that's been really interesting because, somebody could say, yeah, I'm fine. And actually you can see on their face, they're holding this like intention to be too strong.
So why do you think that is? Like, why are we so committed to this idea that working harder, pushing our muscles harder, pushing our bodies harder is what's going to get us gains or whatever they call it? Or
I think there's a certain level of validation that we get in the world. You are a landscaper, or anyone else who is a landscaper or a laborer of any kind. If you show up and you do 10 hours instead of 8 hours, you get a fist bump, or you get an extra beer at the end of the day, or extra $10, whatever. So that grind mentality, I think, creates this like, oh, this applies to everything. My relationships, my body, my food. Let's eat more food, right? Let's work hard and eat hard and
eat. Yeah, that makes sense.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think of that as like this, like work. It's kind of like this working class, kind of masculine combination of like, we have to push our bodies, which is what I did. I beat the crap out of myself for a lot of years and took a lot of risks and hurt myself, screwed up my legs. The only thing I could do was Tai Chi, because I had such problematic injuries in my legs all the way up to my hips from elongating my muscles in a climbing accident. And so it slowed me down, and I had to get into Tai Chi, which was slow, and I had to do the opposite, which was to do less, to the point where I'm still 10 years later learning how to do less, right? And not work as hard, right? And instead of really forcing myself into a kind of discomfort that my body would actually fight against, right? And so, whereas now, I've kind of noticed that there's that shift, right? And I think about like how we've kind of formulated men as being big, men as being like structured, men as being strong, men as being able to take like a beating, being able to put our body through like, and then I imagine in your work you start to come across people whose bodies are just like mangled at like 40 and 50 and 30. Like mine was like at 27. I was like, oh my god, I'm starting to get an old man's body.
Yeah.
And now I've had to spend a lot of years rebuilding my my comfort level in my body, really. So I've had to reimagine how I experience my body as a man, like entirely. Wow. Flip it upside down. So, yeah, I would imagine that you get men who come in who have kind of very much accepted that there's a way of working with the body that they think they understand, and then you're like, actually, here's another way to see things.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's quite. It's always surprising, not surprising, when I hear like another guy express like their history of feeling like,
Yeah.
you know, like hitting this point like in such an early age too, 27. Like that's
Oh yeah.
nothing. Like you have 50, 60, 70 years ahead of you.
Yeah.
And here you are at 27 with injuries from
Crippled, yeah.
doing stupid shit too, right? Like it's like moving bricks or like hauling dirt and you're in bad knees.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
oh great, this is awesome.
Ignoring the pain in my body while working on construction sites, which is celebrated.
Totally.
Suck it up, keep moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what you're speaking to really is, you know, and I'll speak to one piece, which is kind of like where my industry kind of overlaps. Yes, with men. Yes, with bodywork, and you know, with fitness. There's been a lot of social conditioning around certain versions of fitness relating to bodybuilding specifically.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's very, very just bunch of hooligans on the street.
Hooligans!
Uh,
How dare they interrupt us?
similar to like hauling shit on a work site. You know, if you go into the gym and you meet up with your homie and you're like, oh, today I overhead pressed like 50 pounds, not 45, or you know, bicep curl 20 pounds instead of 15 or whatever. There's this like little checkbox of like, check, I did better than like last time.
Yeah.
And so there's this quantifiable thing that you can say, and then you can look and you can see, oh, I have the thing. Look at the thing. I'm valuable.
Yeah.
Whereas the paradigm shift is not looking at that experience as valuable, which
Right.
is so hard.
Yeah.
So hard to say, oh, all of these things that I did, the bench presses and the overhead press, you know, to value the feeling of feeling good versus the look or the like number,
Yeah.
it's fucking hard.
No doubt. I get a lot of like clients and friends that are just like they really want their bodies to look a specific way, right? And then sometimes when I ask them about feeling, they're just like they just won't even go there. They're just like, no, I want to look that way. You know, I want muscles or whatever, right? And I don't know how much, like, I'm not, I don't have extensive background in looking at the body stuff, but my struggle has been the opposite, whereas like I'm kind of muscly and wiry and skinny, and so I have a tendency to inflammation, to muscular injuries. I'm more prone to cancer. I like have been the same weight pretty much since I was 15. It's like, it's just like, you know, I just kind of got the body I got, and I have to work to make it work better. Some people have kind of heavier set bodies, or bodies that don't have as much flexibility, or way, you know, skinnier than I am, or whatever, right? You've got these different body types, and I found myself thinking about, like, what is that balance between the way our bodies look, you know, in this like kind of culture that says that it's supposed to be a certain way, and then also then how we feel, right? And now for me, I'm like more interested in how I feel in my body, which has become clear over the years, you know. But a lot of people are not there, you know. They're not. Yeah, at least that's what I've noticed, anyways. What have you noticed a struggle, like when you have like clients come to you and they're like looking at what their bodies look like versus how they feel in their bodies?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I will say that I was one of those people, you know, like I used to look at bodybuilding videos thinking, oh, this is the way I need to move in the gym, is bodybuilding. And it took me the better part of a year to see that was just, it's a type of, I almost consider it like an art. It's not,
Nice.
It's not, you know, it's not movement. It's not function. When you're bodybuilding, you're going towards a specific thing: mass, symmetry, beauty. You're not looking to run better or be more efficient. You're looking at a certain thing that's going to look a certain way on the stage. And I think the unfortunate thing is that that model is so pervasive because it's easily applied. Function is a much harder question. How do you render your body more functional is such a hard question that like every day I smash my head against the wall being like, I thought I knew how it's going this way, and now I know this information, and it's totally upside down. And but you can get quantifiable, like, you know, in this age of commercialization, if you say, hey, in 2 months you're gonna look, you know, the before and after photos, you're gonna look like this, then you can sell a product.
Yeah.
Which the model of fitness and bodybuilding is that way. So
yeah, it's so interesting because like literally if I took like a picture of me 10 years ago doing Tai Chi and one now doing Tai Chi, it would probably be the same. You might see maybe my you know, on an energetic level it might look different, but like it would probably, like, nothing physically that you could tangibly look at except for the size of my quads, and I have gained a little bit of weight, but there's not a whole lot of tangible changes because they've happened internally, right? Like those changes have happened internally, and so it's an interesting, when I think about that, like, idea of like holding up these like the me before and the me after, right? And so it's kind of made me think of, like, I'm curious about like the gift of because you're talking about like functional movement for people, and so like what is the gift that you are offering men that they may not already have, right? Because if they're just like charging down the road wanting to get bigger or wanting to lose weight or wanting to be stronger, lift more weights or whatever it is, or running 15 miles, what is the gift of functional, right? Like, what is that? Like, why are you so committed to that process?
I love it. I love this question. This is so good. Yeah. Well, the coolest thing about functional movement, which, like, depending on where whoever's watching this is at their journey, like, there's so many people who are talking about functional movement in ways that are not functional movement. So I'll clarify that functional movement is moving in ways that increases the harmony and the synergy between certain parts of your body. So it's not isolating things, it's creating harmony, and it's taking into account things like balance, proprioception, and mobility around your joints. So there's a lot of different variables. So that's just really important to understand, that just because you're jumping on a Bosu ball and like throwing a medicine ball at the wall doesn't necessarily mean it's functional. It just means that it could be that's just flashy. It could mean that it's functional, but there's different schools of thought around what that is. So mine is very specifically like, okay, why bother going towards functionality? The main thing is longevity. The more harmony there is in your body, the longer you will live your life.
Nice.
Period. It's that simple. If you're just isolating things and you're forgetting about certain parts of your body, they literally start shutting off. So I would say the gift that I offer folks is that we can do more with doing less.
Nice.
And the main piece with functionality is awareness. So if you're aware of the pieces that need to come into play in order to perform a certain movement, you don't necessarily need to, like, you know, do what the old school was, like do reps of some sort. Yes, there's repetition involved, but how are you doing that repetition? Are you doing it perfect every single time? Because you'll get more out of 10 perfect synergistic like movements than like weeks and weeks of repetition of muscles in isolation. Right. So that's the coolest thing, is that there's more inside you, and as you stay persistent, you have to do less.
Interesting.
So
so if you're doing it properly with like good bringing awareness and like creating safety for your body, then actually, if you are stoked about bodybuilding, or you are stoked about building your muscles up or getting a 15K run in, then then you're going to be able to bring that awareness and that kind of structural stuff that you work on into their already existing practices.
Yeah, you can build mass. Like, there's nothing wrong with building mass, but building mass on a crooked foundation is an accident waiting to happen.
Is a crooked building.
Is a crooked building. Like, for example, I ran here. So I ran here from a Squai Mall.
Oh, wow.
Right? So did I run here because I want to get a workout in? No. I ran here because I can.
That's so cool. Actually, this is what I woke up this morning thinking about. Yes, I knew I would remember. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Oh, good.
So yeah, something I was thinking about is like a lot of people really struggle with starting to make new practices a part of their life, right? So I love that you just were like, well, I'm gonna go see Maddie, so why don't I just run there instead of whatever else you could do. You made it like part of your kind of like working out or your routine, or just maybe a part of your life. I don't know. So I got a pair of rollerblades the other day because I just realized that I needed more gentle cardio because I feel like running hurts me in the city. But what I was thinking about was this kind of like, what are ways in which people can make shifts in their life? Like what are little things they can change, So I know for me, it was like getting a pair of rollerblades was like, I was like, well, damn, like I can just, instead of biking or walking or driving a car, I can actually just rollerblade to most of the parts. Victoria is very small. And so I'm getting my cardio, my heart rate up, and it's very small impact on my body, which is what I wanted. So that was one thing that I did, but I'm just kind of thinking about that shift for people. How do they get momentum? Like, what does that look like? What have you seen as far as people just kind of like all of a sudden just shifting their lives, or is it like, do you slowly incorporate a little bit at a time, or do you just like go, okay, I'm gonna flick the switch and start doing all of these things? Like, what would you recommend for someone?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Someone's, I don't know, maybe it's not a one size fits all.
It's definitely not, but I think one thing that's consistent is that, first of all, there is no ending. So there's no destination.
What?
Right?
What?
So we're not gonna, I'm not gonna get to a point where I'm just, everything's fine, right? I'm gonna have consistently things. I have things, in the lower part of my leg, I have got some rotation that I have to deal with. I've got some constriction in one part of my hamstrings. I have things around my neck. I have all kinds of stuff. And so the main thing that I tell everyone when I first start working with them is get curious. Because curiosity is going to take you further than this nice. Whoa, I'm gonna go crush it and get my gains. It's like, no, you're not. You're not. And if you throw that out and you just stay curious, and by curious, it's like, oh, did you know that you have a shoulder that can move like almost 360 degrees? Have you ever done a circle with your shoulder? No? Then do a circle with your shoulder. Have you ever moved your neck in any other position? Maybe not. Then do that. Do you know that every joint in your body rotates? Like even your knee, Like you can even move your knee in rotation.
Wow, your knee actually moves quite a bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So why are we built this way? It's like, well, there's reasons, and I'm not going to get into those. But the main thing is that if you start activating the components through exploring, like the fact that we have all of the, every joint in your body, your fingers don't rotate. So sorry, anatomy people out there. But most of your major joints.
I got a little bit of a rotation in there. I don't know.
It's there. It's probably there a little bit. I've actually never studied the fingers, so that's gonna.
Here, just let me grab a hold of it.
The body is just a crazy thing, and so if you, that's what I don't teach folks necessarily any exercises at first. I teach folks that there are these things called your joints, and they move. And they have all kinds of possibilities. And so start doing that. Start moving them in the possible ways. And that'll take you further than anything else.
So you're kind of saying like dynamic movement is kind of important. Is to like get muscles moving in ways they don't normally move.
Well, honoring, I would say, I wouldn't use the term dynamic, but honoring the full range of motion of what's available, because that's different for everybody.
Okay.
I can raise my arm here. Some people can only raise here.
Right.
So raise it till there.
Wait, we're not all one?
No, unfortunately. Sorry, I know.
No, I thought we were all one. The Buddhist slide.
Yeah, they're full of shit, those Buddhists.
Huh.
That's why they're smiling.
Yeah.
They got you.
You suckers.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah. I like that piece about being within your own range. So I imagine that you would help people to figure out what their range is and then slowly kind of push up against their edges.
Yeah. Strategically.
strategically.
So like,
you don't just like
let's say you feel
push
pain.
them off the cliff.
Absolutely
No.
not. And if you feel pain, there's a difference between like tightness and pain. If you move your shoulder like this and you get this like deep guttural like fucked up feeling in your shoulder, okay, there's a strategy that's necessary in order for you to get through that.
Okay.
Don't just like cram it into its spot. You're gonna get inflammation. You're gonna have a bad time.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think are common things that like men might be struggling with? Like if they might be like if they were thinking this, you know, if they were thinking in a certain way, how would they be thinking if they would be good for you? You know, like to hang out with you and do some work, or like you know, either when you get one of your groups going or when you're doing one-on-one work, right? So like what might they be thinking? Does that make sense? Like what might they be thinking? Like I might be like, man, my body hurts all the time, and my body was in a lot of pain in my mid-20s because I kicked the crap out of it skateboarding and rock climbing, and I just didn't care. I just blasted through it. So I was in a lot of pain, and that's actually what initiated my journey. Is I didn't want to be in pain anymore, and it took about 3 or 4 years of doing Tai Chi before I started to experience no pain in my body anymore, right? Like in my joints and my muscles, you know. So it was so that's one of the reasons why I kind of sought out more somatic-based work, which is like body and mind, you know, and awareness-based work. What are other reasons that men in particular might seek it out, or might want to just use their curiosity, you know?
I mean, there's a few reasons. I think if I wanted to be completely honest, there's a few reasons. So one of them, if you're tired of gym culture and you want to really harness like your power away from gym culture, and you just notice a lot of toxicity and like superficial shit, definitely a great reason.
Nice, yeah.
If you want to have longevity versus in that's a value you have. You know, if you care about being alive when you're 70,
Yeah.
and you don't care about like just being sexy, which is brings me to that third point, which is that there's this paradox that people think if you take longer to do these things and you try to understand it, that somehow you're gonna not be looking good. And it's like I like looking good. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't. And everything I do falls within these systems. They're strategic. They take time. It takes effort. But I think I feel good and I look good. I feel like I look good, which it took me a lot to say that.
You started from the feeling though, because you feel like you look good.
Yeah. Which it's hard, man.
There's a connection there.
I used to think I needed to look like a bodybuilder to feel sexy, and I felt like that was so like destructive. So
yeah, that was a hard time for you, I'd imagine.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
and it just forces you to push yourself, thinking you're accomplishing something. But like these things take strategies. Our bodies are so complex.
Did you feel better when you were getting to those points, or was that like temporary? Or?
Well, there's like a tightness that feels good, but I don't have the same mass that I did when I was doing just the like, leg press squats, like, bicep curls. But fuck, I'm stronger.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so much stronger.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Without the mass and the
mass does not equal function.
No.
Not
No.
even close. So it's kind of like, you have to be a little bit curious to work with me. You have to be a bit curious. You have to be like, wait a minute, we've evolved like how many billions of years into this?
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it. And some theories might interest you or not. Personally, I think it's amazing that we're like the only animal that steps on 2 feet.
Yeah. It's true.
The thing that divides us from other animals is our butt, our glutes. Our glutes are decided
Butts.
bums. We have
Butts.
them, and we have an obsession about it. Everybody loves
No, we
butts.
don't. No, we don't. What are you talking about? Butts.
Maddie, I think
Butts.
you like butts.
Oh yeah, I do like butts.
But isn't that crazy? Like it's
Yeah.
the one piece of anatomy that like gorillas don't have it, chimpanzees don't have it.
Interesting. I've never thought about that.
Human beings have a glute max.
Now I'm going through the catalog of all the butts in my mind.
Yeah. All these orangutans and monkeys, they don't have glutes.
So interesting.
So we stood up We have a TFL and a IT band that helps us stay upright, connecting to our glutes. You know, so it's
That's-
like, it's weird.
Yeah. that
Why?
is-
Why do we have that? That's cool.
There's a whole. I remember reading theories about it, and some of them are pretty interesting, like evolutionary theories about that. But not my forte, that's for sure.
I'm no expert either.
Yeah, and it's cool. We've covered like quite a bit of ground in 35 minutes here, so